welcome to Interviewland.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No problem. Do you want to give a little introduction to yourself?
Yes, okay. My name is Possibly Jamie. I am a Scottish pop artist. I'm a Scottish pop artist. I've been writing, producing, recording music myself for about 5 years now.
Okay.
Been based in Glasgow for 4 of those. Yeah.
Very
been-
nice.
yeah.
So I wanted to ask about your would you call it a stage name? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, artist name.
Yes, yeah, your
Uh-huh.
artist name then. It's an adaptation of Bjork's Possibly Maybe. How did you come up with that?
You know what? So I was performing under my own actual name
Okay.
for a number of years.
Okay.
And I kept writing songs about my friends and what they were going through. And people kept asking me oh, did this actually happen? And I'm like, no, it's not about me. And so I kind of already was trying to move away from that
Okay.
as an idea. But then I think I was like, well, why don't I try and play with the idea of it being a little bit me and not? And so there was maybe Jamie, and then I thought that sounded a bit like
Okay.
kids show.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, possibly is a synonym of maybe. And then I thought, wait, that's such an opportunity. I'm such a Bjork fan
Yeah.
that I thought I have to take this opportunity to do the pun.
Yeah.
Which I remember when I had a week where I was sitting on it and I was like, is this so derivative and reductive? But most of my friends didn't know the reference. So I thought, right,
Well,
I think
that's
I'm
fine.
getting away with it. I'm getting away
Yeah.
with it. So yeah, I feel if nothing else, great conversation starter.
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone's always like, that's such a great name. And I'm like, well, I've got a story for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. And it makes sense with you having it as kind of a way to distance yourself from the things that you're talking
Yes.
about in that way.
I get the opportunity to kind of write about myself, but it's not really it's not like a diary.
Yeah.
It's inspired by what's going on,
Okay.
but it's not really it's not about exactly what's happening in my life. I'm not writing songs to as a diary.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a piece of art, I suppose. Yeah, rather than a story in the same way.
I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, so you're obviously influenced by Bjork, as you've mentioned.
Yes.
And I saw that you credit Kate Bush, Charlie XCX, and FKA Twigs as inspirations. What is it about those artists that inspires you?
You know what? And I feel like I've spent a lot of time trying to work out why I'm so drawn to them. I think a lot of the time they're not very bothered by being a particular genre.
Okay.
So a lot of the time I think FK Twigs is a great example of that, where you find it quite difficult to describe their sound in words. It's definitely electronic, but sometimes it's not. And I'm really drawn to musicians who aren't really or playing around with ideas of genre, and aren't too focused on it sounding like a particular thing. It's never pure pop.
Okay.
Or purely dance, or I don't know, purely folky.
Yeah.
It's always kind of pushing the boundaries of those genres and playing with them a bit. I think that's what really inspires me. Anytime an artist I think is experimenting with genre in some way and kind of pushing the form, I find that really inspiring.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so you explore themes of queer masculinity, apathy, obsession, and heartbreak in the digital age in your music. How do you translate those topics into your songs?
I think that how do I translate them into my songs? Often it's kind of comes from a silly idea first.
Okay.
So I'm trying to give an example, the song International Men's Day, which is objectively rage baity and provocative. And it started from this wouldn't it be funny to write a song based on with that title?
Yeah.
Again, kind of rage baity. And then it kind of evolves from there. It starts with this silly playful idea.
Yeah.
And it often kind of evolves into well, there is something about this song. It ended up becoming kind of a meditation on masculinity, and it was the desperation of the modern man. I think that people always are oh, your lyrics are so silly and so funny, and I'm I like to hear that, but I suppose in my head it's super sincere. I think I'm doing something really serious, because there's always kind of a serious undertone to it. There's I'm trying to tell a story that is this is kind of what it is like to be on the fringes of the internet, of the manosphere. I'm a very online person. I think
same.
this is inevitable. And so I feel I'm always absorbing the greatness and also the horror of the internet. I think that kind of spills out in the music. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to talk about this later, but I want to actually talk about that now, the
Sure.
comedic element that you've mentioned.
Okay, yeah.
Obviously, that's very evident in your online
Yeah.
presence. There's a balance between that bringing attention to the actual issues that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
How do you sort of make sure that you're still including those two elements, if that makes sense, and make them not take away from
Sure.
the other one?
I feel like it sort of just seems to happen accidentally.
Yeah.
I'm not really thinking like about punchlines so much.
Yeah.
I suppose it's like, clever lines and such. And I think that when I'm rewriting a song, I'm trying to think like, well, is this, I'm trying to make sure that each lyric is kind of useful in some way. Is it going to advance the idea, or is it going to be kind of like a funny moment?
Yeah.
I suppose the online presence is being kind of silly has evolved from the fact that I used to be making TikToks about anything.
Yeah.
I think at like 2021, I had a couple of like pretty viral TikToks, which I'm kind of scared to look back on, of me just doing whatever. I had just moved to Glasgow.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone here, and I was like, well, there's almost like there's no harm in just shooting anything into the void. And so I think a lot of people kind of know me as a person who's like doing silly stuff, not necessarily in a musical context. And so much of that is like it's kind of evolved from that, and it probably actually influenced the music. I think my music's gotten sillier as well. When I think learning that the presence and the marketing can kind of can meld with the music in a certain way. And again, so online that it just, my brain's probably melted a little bit. Just and so now I don't have the attention span for anything more than, an 8-second video at this point.
Honestly, fair. I feel like everyone can relate to that. But I feel like that helps with having the online presence, and then that experience with online. I feel like that kind of does filter into your music in the way that it's very attention grabbing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to separate yourself when you're writing music. You know that you're probably only going to be able to share like 15 seconds of this at a time. That's how people discover music. And so you have to fight the urge to like, what's the 15-second clip that's going to stand out, and trying to write the song as it is and not be too worried about that. That's the hardest thing actually, maybe, is remembering that what I'm trying to make first is a good song rather than an attention grabbing like snippet. So I try, and when I'm actually finishing music, especially, I'm trying to like work through something to the end. It's like turn off the phone, go offline for 2 weeks, finish the music, and then I can switch the online brain on and be like, okay, what's the funniest part of it? What bit is gonna be funny? So yeah, I think it's a really difficult balance to strike, because again, you kind of have to be online to be a musician these days. You can't quite hard to do it offline. So I think it's about trying to be cautious with getting too obsessed with it.
Yeah, because people can definitely fall into traps with trends, and it's hard to stay true to yourself in that way, I feel, at the moment.
Oh god, yeah, it's so like knowing what yourself is. Because you see something going kind of a little bit viral and you're like, well, I could maybe like dip my toe into that. I think it's fun to like mix and match ideas. Like for example, I know that like Jersey beats, like kind of clubby beats, have gone super viral over the last 5 years. I kind of experimented with them a little bit, but I'm also aware that like, being careful with like what do I want my music to sound like. We're not trying to just like copy other things online. We're trying to observe and like absorb some things, and just trying to not get like too obsessed with just the thing that's viral at the moment.
That makes sense. So your music is self-produced and self-written. Is having that creative control important to you?
Yes, because I'm so bossy. Part of it was the literal economics of it. It was like I'm making this music by myself because I didn't know many other people who could help me produce and help me write. So it was like, well, I just have to do it by myself.
That makes sense.
And I can play the piano and I can play the violin very badly. So I use that as much as possible, and I've learned to kind of use that and play with those sounds to make something kind of a little bit interesting. I think that the creative constraints of doing it myself have really forced me
Yeah.
to expand what I could do
Okay.
from a production perspective. I think if you have access to all the tools in the world, if I could have any musician I liked, I'd have I'd have crazy performers all over. But I think I probably would feel like I have less of a creative direction. I think that doing it myself and doing the best of what I can do
Mhm.
has been a great way of curating a sound
Yeah.
that I feel is not seen often in Scotland.
Mm.
And even I think it's a product of lots of influences and also the kind of
Mm.
creative constraints that I've forced upon myself. I
Yeah.
am now working more with other musicians. I've done some
Okay.
great sessions, both producing and
Mhm.
songwriting. But I think my own music is probably going to remain a pretty personal project,
Yeah.
just because I've gotten to a good flow of it and I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, open to obviously working with other artists as
Yeah.
well. That's really fun.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. How does the creative process work when you're working on your own then?
It's very like I have an idea, let's go. We have to go
Okay.
right now.
Yeah.
So there'll be times where I'm like, I should probably work on things, but I just can't be bothered, you know. And
Yeah.
then sometimes I'll have a week where every night it's like you're up into the late hours, like working on ideas. There's a little bit of like a separation between the like artistic side
Yeah.
and the like coming up with ideas and the jotting them down and playing with them versus a slightly more scientific like polishing them out and creating the finished song. So I think they suit different moods.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm in a mood to like just play on the piano for hours and write down ideas and just like spitball things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, okay, I know how I want this to be and I know kind of how I can create this. I don't have to think too creatively about it. I'm like, I know what sound I'm looking for. I can like hear it in my head. I feel like this is part of why I haven't worked with other producers, because I'm like, I know what I want it to sound like, and I think I can get there, but I don't know how to explain it to somebody.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
yeah, it's part of it is like, right, scientific mode. Let's twiddle the knobs and figure out the sound that we're trying to get to. So yeah, it's about like having a few different projects on the go and like which one am I in the mood to do right now, and getting that burst of energy out there. And then hopefully eventually there's a number of completed songs, but I always have lots of things on the boil at once. So
Yeah, I'm the same. I feel like I can't just focus on one
oh
thing. I
god, yeah. I
need several
mean,
things.
ADHD brain. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't have it, but people are always like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, maybe
This
a
is
little
the
bit.
same thing where I'm like, I don't have a diagnosis, but
Yeah, but who
I
knows?
feel like I should probably.
Maybe.
That's probably future me. Yeah.
Yeah. I really love Geometric Heart. Could you take me through the making of that song in particular?
This has been years in the
Okay.
making. A lot of the songs, like a lot of my music, takes a long
Yeah.
time. There's the basic idea, and then there's a period of time where I just like sitting on it and thinking about it. And often I think as time goes on, it probably gets a little weirder. And so it starts off as like a pop song, like a pretty clear pop song, and then I'll have an idea and it kind of gets a little bit more unusual. Geometric Heart, I remember making it a while ago, and I played it for some friends. We were having like drinks at some point. I was playing it for my friends, and there was not the kind of reaction I expected. And I thought, oh God, okay, what's going on here? And because in my head I was like, this is such a good party tune, like. And then I think I played the demo and they were like, oh, this is good. And I'm like, okay,
Like, what have I done?
Something's up. And so I kind of, again, this was like years ago. I sat on it for a bit and I kind of worked out what I needed to be. It like really transformed from that demo. There were some of the hooks from there that kind of remained, but it was almost totally rewritten, new ideas, new sound. I was really inspired by, this was very inspired by Robin.
Okay.
Dancing on My Own, kind of that body talk era. And I think that probably comes out, but then I think there's little snippets of kind of unusual moments in there. There's a sort of the end of the song which goes a bit like Justice, kind of Daft Punky.
Yeah.
There's little snippets of like accordion playing in there, which
cool.
I mean, if you can work out where it is, I commend you. And a little bit of beatboxing as well, because I feel like that's another way I'm like, because when I'm like coming up with ideas in my head, I'm often like I want it to sound like this, and so I'm like, well, I can make it sound like this exactly. So I think that it kind of grew arms and legs, and it kind of became a much more interesting song as time went on. And now I brought it back to my friends later, and they're like, "Oh, this is amazing!
Okay.
I can't believe they almost don't even remember the original time I
Wow.
played it to them because they're like, this is obviously amazing."
Yeah.
But the original time, something must have not been.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so yeah, sometimes when I'm like on the fence about an idea, they're like, "You should maybe think about that." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right."
let me change that.
Yeah, no, it was a really long time
Mm.
to really kind of build up the song into what it was, and it's kind of a bit of a almost like a magnum opus. It's
Yeah.
a really powerful pop song. I'm really
Yeah.
pleased with it.
I really love that one.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's very interesting to hear all of the different elements behind it.
Mm.
And I think you mentioned earlier about playing the piano and the violin. So you have classical music training, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was in choirs in school. I played the
Mm.
piano. I was in orchestras,
Okay.
and um, this was happening kind of, from a very young age. I think I was like
Mm.
6 when I started playing the piano. And then I think I was involved in so many ensembles in school.
Mm.
And at the same time, I was kind of discovering Bjork would be the main artist. I think I was 15 years old, and I was like
Okay.
going to charity shops and buying
Mhm.
CDs of random artists and just listening to them. And I was starting to figure out like this is something really interesting and special. And
Mm.
I was kind of experimenting with making electronic music with
Okay.
kind of back alley software,
Yeah.
really just seeing what I could do and working out my ideas. I really didn't have much of a creative voice, but I knew what I
Mhm.
liked. Um, so these have kind of evolved at the same time as I've sort of got more involved in like classical music and music
Mhm.
theory, which I think is actually was really valuable. Is learning the kind of tools
Yeah.
behind music theory has really helped kind of to understand why so many of my favorite pop songs are so good.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I understand why I like this. I like the chords or I like the melody, and it kind of helps you build or work out what you
Mhm.
like about the songs.
Yeah.
So really it's really useful
Mhm.
to like be able to kind of experiment with pop music
Yeah.
with a kind of classical background. Um, I think that it's not like essential. I think
Mhm.
that some of my favorite musicians, like Grimes, for
Yeah.
example, Visions, she didn't necessarily have much like music theory
Yeah.
training. She was very drawn to like what it sounded good to her
Mm.
and what worked on the piano. And so I'm also trying to make sure that I'm like not too focused on what's
Mm.
technically good, but like what is it's kind of what do I really want it to sound like, but
Yeah.
how am I going to make it sound like that? How am I going to get to that feeling? And so I think the classical experience is really good for that.
Yeah. What have you got planned for the next few months and for next year then?
Ooh, secrets.
Yeah.
I have when I was finishing off the last EP, I had a bunch of ideas all at once, which I've
Okay.
been documenting, and so I'm hoping people will get to see those soon.
Okay.
So we got a bunch of stuff in the tank. I'm not sure I can say that much.
Okay. That's fine.
But also just been doing a lot more performing. I
Mhm.
really for a long time, I think because I didn't wasn't performing a lot, thought of myself as very much like I'm a producer and I just am
Yeah.
like a bedroom producer and I don't do much.
Mm.
But I've been performing a lot more recently and it is so fun.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to be able to share it with people and to have
Yeah.
that like shared experience. Um and again, it's like people come to me after the show and they're like, we love listening to
Mm.
it on record, but live it's so amazing. And I'm like, that's
Okay.
crazy because I don't think of myself as a live artist, but
Yeah.
people seem to.
Well, there you go.
So
The people have
hey,
spoken.
yeah, well, I mean, I'll be coming to a city near you,
Yeah.
hopefully.
There we go.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously Interviewland is very inspired by nature and
Hmm.
people and connection. So I was wondering, what is one thing that you do or practice regularly to try and make the world a better place?
I guess one thing that I am always trying to do is like not be embarrassed
Yeah.
to defend what you know is right.
Yeah.
This is something that like has come up a lot both like professionally and
Mhm.
personally,
Okay.
where somebody is saying something negatively
Mm.
or is being harassing,
Yeah.
and I think there's a certain level of like I'm embarrassment about
Mm.
reporting these things and like
Yeah.
saying it to their face like this is a problem.
Mm.
And I think especially in the last few years, I've been like, well, no, stop saying that.
Yeah.
Shut up. Stop being mean to this person. Like it's
Mm.
not necessary. And I think that's something that I've been trying to do more because I think once one person does it,
Mhm.
everyone else is like, oh, I can stand up for this,
Yeah.
because it's so easy to like see, I mean, homophobia,
Mm.
racism,
Yeah.
sexism, um, happen, and it's like, oh, you know it's wrong. We all know
Yeah.
it's wrong, and it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm just slightly embarrassed to say it. Like, or what's the
Mm.
level? What's the point at which I can start complaining about
Yeah.
this? And the point you can start complaining about it is immediately,
Yeah.
and not being embarrassed about that. That is
Mm.
one thing I am a big believer in, and
Yeah.
something that I've been practicing, and something that I would encourage people to do. I think
Yeah,
that
definitely.
try like the embarrassment you might feel, or the fact you might feel it's like a little bit cringe.
Mm.
People are wanting to say that.
Yeah.
People want to say it,
100%. Yeah.
and you are going to be doing people a massive favor by saying that, and you're going to
Mhm.
help them be able to say it in the future. Like, stand up for what you know
Yeah.
is right.
Yeah.
That is, I think that's the one thing I would do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great one, and especially in the political climate these days, I think it's so important to call things out.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, like we all kind of know what's right or wrong here.
Yeah.
We just have to be adamant about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Mhm.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great, thanks.